I would like to be a thought leader where I can contribute to the society and to the finance industry by speaking at various forums, sharing my inputs, and trying to help people who can learn from my experiences. If one person even learns from my experiences, I think that would be a great thing from my perspective.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors, where we bring you insights from top industry leaders shaping the future of business and governance. Today, we are honored to have Mr. Rajib Biswas, a seasoned finance leader with over 18 years of experience in corporate finance, investment strategy, and international financial governance. As Senior Manager Finance at Rewardz Private Limited, he has led financial transformations, built high performing teams, and optimized financial structures across multiple global markets. His leadership has been instrumental in driving cost efficiencies and streamlining governance frameworks. In this episode, we'll discuss his journey, key lessons in financial leadership, and the evolving role of CFOs in today's dynamic business landscape. So let's dive in. Sir, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, firstly.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to feature on FaceTime with Leaders. It's a privilege.
The pleasure is all ours, sir. Sir, every accomplished leader has a story, one filled with pivotal moments, lessons learned, and defining experiences that shape the journey. So, looking back at your 18 plus years in finance, from investment management to leading international financial operations, if your career were a book, what would be the title of it? And what are some of the key chapters that have defined your path to becoming the leader you are today?
Well, great question to start with. Uh, I believe if my journey were a book, then I would title it as Navigating the Financial Journey, Navigating the Financial Frontier, a journey of perseverance, resilience, and leadership. Because all throughout my career, I've been very resilient and I've always persevered. Uh, given the condition that I've worked across industries, across verticals in finance, which uh, sort of provided me with huge challenges. So that needed a lot of resilience from my end, and a lot of patience and perseverance had to be shown and exhibited. So I think that would sort of define my book in terms of the heading. As far as the various chapters are concerned, I think the first important chapter would be the foundation, where uh, I would try to project about my education, how I started in the finance domain, what was my initial experience, how did I start learning the financial markets. The second chapter would be all about the investment insights, about the initial portfolio that was given to me for managing it. What were the challenges I faced? Where did I falter? What were the risk mitigating strategies that came up with? What were the strategy in terms of returns maximization that it came up with? The third chapter, I suppose, would be uh, crisis management. When you deal with international operations, there are numerous challenges and crises that you come across, and the various lessons that you learn in terms of dealing with the various regulators across the various regions. So I would like to highlight that. The next chapter would be the leadership lessons that I learned, because while moving up the ladder, I managed teams which were from small to medium to large with diverse backgrounds. So those give me a lot of insights about how to manage people and how to uh, get the best out of them. So those were the critical leadership lessons that I would like to highlight. Another important chapter would be on the strategic leadership, about the strategic goals that you keep in mind while framing the policies across your departmental goals and try to align them with the overall business goals. And another important chapter would be on mentorship and legacy, about because I am very, very clear in my mind that I want to mentor the next generation of finance leaders, even within my team members, so that they can, take up my position while I move up. Because if you want to move up to the next chair, you have to prepare a person for your chair as well. And last but not the least, I believe it would be an ongoing journey that I want to highlight that I'm still undertaking, where continuous learning and upgradation of skills is paramount in order to keep learning in the current VUCA world that we are in. So I think these few of these chapters would define me in that book, and the heading would probably appropriately showcase what I have been going through all throughout from my first job itself.
Very well said, sir. I think the fact that you have to have someone to take over your position, because we often forget that and we often strive for moving ahead but realize that wait, my
Absolutely.
team's not adept enough to take my place, and then that loop becomes a problem. So, managing financial operations within a single market is already complex, but overseeing them across multiple global regions, India, Sri Lanka, Singapore, UAE, and Malaysia, adds an entirely new layer of challenges. So, how do you navigate these complexities while ensuring seamless financial operations across borders and beyond the numbers? What has this global experience taught you about leadership, adaptability, and decision making on the international scale?
I think a very great question that you have put across. I think the first foremost important thing when you are trying to manage various regions, various countries and various regions, which are completely different from each other, the first and foremost important thing is to understand the regulatory framework in depth across each and every country. You need to understand those regulatory framework in terms of the taxation that is there, in terms of the various business policies and the strategies that each region, each country follows, in terms of how they want you to showcase your strategy to them. So regulatory environment, understanding it, and then also having a very good relationship with the local experts and the local, the torch bearers there is very important in order to actually gel with that entire regulatory framework. That's the first thing. The second important thing is trying to form a unified financial system in your organization across the regions. Because when you have a unified financial system, you can actually carry out your accounting, bookkeeping, finance, record keeping all throughout in a unified manner, which would give you a very uh, proper macro overview about how to take decisions across regions. The third important thing is to keep training your team members across regions on on those regulatory framework. So continuous training of your team members is very essential. So the learning and growth is not only for you, but also for each and every team member across regions. Like for example, what I do is if some of my team members are dealing with say UAE market, I would write them to also shift them to say a Singapore market, and they should also understand and know the Singapore regulations and not only the UAE regulations. So that serves two purposes. One, you value add in terms of their resumes and their CVs and their value addition increases, and they become global citizens in the form that they know how to handle each region as per the needs of those regions. Another very important phenomenon which I've realized is cultural understanding of each region. It's a soft power, but it's a very important thing. If you don't understand how the culture of the particular country, particular region drives the business, you will not be able to handle the business or the grow the businesses in those particular countries. So I think if you take across this culture aspect, the continuous learning and the regulatory framework and the unified financial processes and systems together, you create a base which can cater to all the regions globally. And in terms of the leadership things that I have learned by having experience across regions is adaptability. That's the key. You have to adapt yourself to the various regions, various countries in terms of the need that arises. I might have a business plan in place. I might have the strategy in place, but a sudden emergency in some of the regions, a sudden change in regulatory framework by the government of that country could trigger a reaction or a strategic shift which you need to build in. So that contingency planning along with that adaptability is the key. The second important thing from the leadership perspective is empathy. Because since you are dealing with various people with various countries who have their own baggages in terms of their culture, the way they have been brought up, in terms of how they are learned to deal with in those countries, in terms of their educational background. So you have to be very empathetic them and understand their needs, and then influence them, motivate them so that they can perform to their optimum. So I think these two are the key, besides the hard skills of negotiation and all those things that you need. But if you want your team to perform to an optimum level, you have to be very empathetic, you have to be adaptable, and you have to see to that you drive your team members from the back and not lead from the front. Step back and give them the opportunity to perform and help them when they need it. Then they will perform to their optimum, and you as a leader will grow further.
Very well said. So I think understanding what is there outside rather than what we want to push is a very important thing. In today's business world, financial resilience isn't just about profitability, it's about making smart strategic decisions that ensure long term sustainability. You've successfully driven 35 to 40% annual savings by in house finance processes, a remarkable achievement. So, cutting is often seen as a reactive measure. Could you share how this approach has improved financial efficiency and contributed to overall business stability and growth?
Thank you for appreciating this strategy. Yeah, you are absolutely spot on when you say that cost cutting is always taken as a reactive measure, because it is always seen as a measure, last uh, step that you have with you, where you don't know how to improve your bottom line, you just cut costs. But to me, I think cost cutting can be looked at as a strategic alternative to improve the business and on a longer term basis, provided you know what to do with it. So, for example, in our case, I was very clear that in-housing the finance process is not only beneficial from the cost perspective, but for the business's long-term perspective. Because finance is it's a central nervous system of the business. Like it's a the spinal cord is the main thing which keeps us stand erect. Finance is something like that for an organization. So if you don't in-house a very strong finance team and don't build it up, your scaling up will falter after a certain level. So what we did is, first and foremost, for in-housing finance team, the first important thing is you have control over your operations when you in-house the finance process. So you know exactly where to focus, what to focus, and what to deliver. That's very important. The second important thing is cost is obviously you're bringing down your cost to a great extent by not outsourcing that entire process to an outsider, because they charge you a lot of cost for doing very defined scope. The third important thing, you have enhanced data security, because you're dealing with data which is so sensitive
Yeah.
that if you don't have it in-house, then data breaches could happen. And I think when you have an enhanced security in place, then it gives a lot of confidence to the various stakeholders. The fourth important thing is it gives you an opportunity to develop your team in a manner through learning and continuous innovation. Because when the team is focusing on the internal dynamics, they know where to improve, how to improve, what to improve,
Yeah.
and they can continuously keep innovating those processes so that it becomes very efficient and value accretion to the organization. The fourth important, it gives you a structure where you can actually retain employees and define a structure for their career growth,
Yeah.
because then they will know that this is the structure which we have in the organization, and this is the value add which is there. If I perform in this manner, I'll be going up the ladder in this manner in X number of years. So for if you combine all of these things, it is a win-win situation for the organization, it is a win-win for the employees, and it is win-win for the leader who is driving this strategy. So I think if you combine all of these, to me, cost cutting is a very strategic initiative, but it needs to be done with caution. It
Yeah.
should not be done just for the sake of cutting cost. It must be balanced with the overall strategic goals of the business. You must be able to align your finance departmental goals with the overall strategic goals of the organization through cost cutting. And then it will work, otherwise not.
True. So, like you said, moving teams in house is definitely one of the things that makes so many things easier because you can communicate, you can understand, you can research, you can do so much, but also making sure that you don't just cut costs of anywhere for the sake of it, right?
Absolutely. And to me, development of team members is paramount in my mind,
Yeah.
because I will only grow as a leader when my team grows itself, grows with me. Otherwise, I will not be able to grow.
Yeah.
So cost cutting is just one of the ways uh, in a way that it becomes a strategic initiative for you, and then you can implement it across your team members so that they can see what the organization is trying to do.
Plus, then you're paying employees for what they're doing, not some third party vendor extra to give you the employees and therefore thereby not actually getting the same quality, right?
Yeah. And another thing I just want to highlight, when you keep on adding value, money keeps chasing you.
Yeah.
So people who chase money, they will falter after some years. But people who add value to themselves, money will chase you.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell my team members as well.
So, having worked extensively in equity research and investment banking, you had a front row seat to understanding what truly drives investor confidence. From your experience, what key financial trends should CFOs and business leaders focus on to not only attract investors but also build long term trust and credibility in the market?
Yeah, it's a great question from the investor's perspective because we now know how globally a lot of companies are going down, and they are only going down because they're only chasing valuations. When you only start chase valuation and not your company's growth, then you will falter. So I think from the investor's perspective, in today's world, the first and foremost is how are you using technology and how are you integrating technology with your business. So are you using artificial intelligence to create efficiency, or are you just using artificial intelligence because it's the most important word now in the world? And are you integrating technology to create operational efficiencies? If how are you creating it, and what value accretion is happening due to that? That's the most important thing that investors will look at. Second important thing is ethical leadership. The investors are very clear about who are the people or which is the team which is leading the organization, and are they themselves following what they are preaching? Because if you say something and you don't follow it, then it's not ethical leadership to me. So ethical leadership is very important from the leadership point of view. Third important thing is transparency in reporting uh, and the accounting information that we putting out to the investors. You need to be very clear in terms of your integrity. The numbers must be what you say it should be, and there should be no negative surprises given to the investors. I think positive news, negative news, you need to be very transparent with them because no one likes nasty surprises, especially investors. If you are telling them that you will achieve X and suddenly, after 11 months, you tell them I will not be achieving X but X minus 10, I think that sort of thing the investors won't like.
Yeah.
The fourth important thing is forward looking statements and your strategic vision. Where do you want to actually reach? That is a very important question as a leader and as an organization. Fourth important thing is the leadership team focusing on strategy, or is the leadership team only focusing on daily management of the work? Because if a leadership team is just only focusing on how to get the daily work done, then the investors wouldn't be interested in the company because then you are not thinking about your growth, your scale up. And then that means you have not prepared your second uh, another team, which is the second generation of team, which is there to take your position when you hang up your boots.
Yeah.
So that means the company doesn't have the depth of leadership, and no investors would like to get into it. A most important thing is I believe while working in equity research, investment banking, or private equity is the cash flow management of an organization. You can have huge amount of profits, but if you're burning a lot of cash, no one would like to burn their fingers in, because then it's like you're running your house by borrowing money from outside, and you won't be able to enjoy your daily meals if you keep borrowing money from outside and trying to buy your meals, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it might look in today's world a bit conservative, but I think cash flow is the primary factor on which everything depends, be it your personal lifestyle, be it your organizational growth. So I think cash flow is something which investors would look at, and then the valuation will be taken care of. So if you take care of your all these measures, you will grow as an organization, and your valuation will also grow. But if you only focus on the value part and you are not focusing on these parts, then the investors will say thank you so much.
So, as you look to the future, what are your aspirations, both in your personal career journey and in the boardroom? In an era where strategic leadership is pivotal, how do you envision your role evolving as you continue to shape financial governance and influence key decisions at the highest levels?
I think from the personal career aspirations, because I read a lot. I'm a ferocious reader. So I think continuous learning and development is very important to me. Because if you do not become a student of life until your last breath, then you lose uh, your ability to add value to the organization and in terms to the society. So the first important career aspiration for me is continuous learning and upgradation of my skills. The second important thing is, I would like to be a thought leader where I can contribute to the society and to the finance industry by speaking at various forums, sharing my inputs, and trying to help people who can learn from my experiences. If one person even learns from my experiences, I think that would be a great thing from my perspective. The third, obviously, having a proper work-life balance, so that I can have time to do what I want to do in terms of my various other activities other than just crunching numbers. And the fourth, I would say, important career aspirations to is to just focus on some activities which I have not got time to focus on till date. Maybe try to work with a lot of NGOs and try to create some differences on the ground in terms of my contribution to the society. In terms of the boardroom, contributions, I think the first most important contribution would be strategic leadership and strategic visionary, so that I can, sort of go through the opportunities that are there, give the boardroom a heads up of the opportunity that is available, try to evaluate them in terms of the risk that are present there, and try to see if some opportunities can be converted into real time, can be implemented on the ground and the organization grows. The second important thing is advocacy for inclusive leadership. I think we as humans, we talk a lot about inclusive leadership, but I think it has not happened. So whichever board I am in, I for inclusive leadership, but because you create such a diversity that a lot of views comes in which probably will not hit you when you are there alone, or a particular, you know, batch of people is there without inclusivity. The third important thing is advocacy of ESG, because if the planet exists, we will exist. If the planet does not exist, we will not exist. So I think for each and every company, taking care of the environment, taking care of the governance, taking care of the corporate responsibility is paramount. So that is one of the keys to me. I would also like to focus on risk management strategies while I am in the board, because a lot of companies are going down, not focusing a lot on the risk management side, I suppose, because they are investing a lot, they are raising a lot of money, they are running after valuations, yet the risk management is ignored, and then after some years, you see those companies going down. So I think these are the few areas where I think I want to, you know, uh, contribute to the board that I joined, and hopefully with my financial experience and the leadership exposure that I've got till date, I'll be able to add value to those boards and to those organizations uh, per se. But one more thing I would also like, advisor to the board and a trusted advisor to the CEO is very important for a finance person, because the CFO's role has changed. It is no longer a back end process. So I'd also like to be a trusted advisor to the CEO of the organization as well, if I am joining the board from through that organization.
I think you have covered all the major things that someone should take care of at the boardroom level and definitely at a personal level. So, given your remarkable journey where challenges become opportunities, how can companies transform compliance from a regulatory burden to a strategic, innovative asset? Like in a world that often sees governance as a constraint, what actionable steps can leaders take to harness its full potential as an actual competitive advantage?
I think the first and foremost important thing is to have a change the mindset of the organization. And when I say mindset, I think the first and foremost is embed that into your culture. Compliance should be in the DNA of the organization. And when I say, I mean, you have to explain this to each and every employee, starting from the lower level to the highest level, why compliance is important, why integrity is important, how does compliance help the organization to grow. That is very important. Once you embed this culture, the second important thing is the buy-in from the top management. Because sometimes what happens, most of the organizations might think compliance just as complying with the statutory requirements. It is not only statutory requirements. It has to be created in a way so that you live and eat compliance. And that will only happen when the people have, you have the buy-in from them and they are actually following what they are preaching. So that's number two. Third is continuous, again, learning and training of the employees. You have to train them in terms of the various compliances and see to that they are following it in each every step of their work. Fourth is automate compliance processes. Put in place the softwares, buy the softwares, and try and automate those compliance processes where manual intervention is the least, so that human error can be reduced to the minimum.
Yeah.
Another important thing is have internal audits and other external out the processes that you have put in place. Have you become complicit after putting those processes in place, or are they working the way you actually wanted them to work when you actually put those processes in place? So those audits are very important at regular intervals to find out the gaps that have now come up, despite trying to put it in a way which happens properly. And once you get those audit reports, you can actually plug those loopholes. Another important aspect to me is having a very free communication channel. Employees should be given the confidence that if they see, which even at the highest level, they can come up and speak about it without being scared of retaliation. When you allow that freedom within the organization, then your compliance will be taken care by everybody.
Yeah.
So I think once you have those processes and the way I have said, then compliance becomes first, it becomes a DNA for you. And you don't feel it as a burden, rather you feel it is a necessity for you. Like when you're driving the car, you try to see to that you're wearing the seat belt, right, so that you don't meet with an accident. Similarly, when you know that it is for your benefit, you will do that, and you will not try to take it as a burden. And the most important thing, when you do that as a part of it becomes a DNA of your organization, you can actually become your USP. So you can actually differentiate yourself in the market by saying we are a company who eats, sleeps, dreams compliance vis-a-vis our competitors. So it becomes your unique selling proposition, and it becomes your brand in turn. And it will not only attract your regulators, but it will attract investors. It will attract the best of the employees, and you will grow as an organization because your brand will tremendously. So I think from that perspective, I see compliance. And another important thing which I also believe is there should be a compliance report which should be produced to the board on a regular interval of time, and that should be critically evaluated to see how the compliance is being followed. We spend a lot of time on strategies, but I
Yeah.
think the board should also spend some time on evaluating compliances.
And if you spend X amount on a compliance but make 10x because what the business then gets for you, how is that a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, if you are not compliant, people will know that.
Yeah.
You just cannot treat or okay, X amount of filings I have to do in a year in each country. Let's do that and forget about it. Then it becomes a problem for you.
Yeah. Sir, as a valued member of Directors Institute, could you share how joining this esteemed community has enriched your leadership journey by highlighting the transformative breakthroughs that you have experienced as a part of this network?
I think Directors Institute is a great institute because it is once you see the networking capabilities, it is recognized across 50 countries. It is one of the leading institutes which is taken very seriously by the corporates around the world. And it has members who are not only sitting at the top positions in most of the companies, but they have immense experience which they can share. So the first and foremost important benefit that I believe I get is I can interact with leaders who are much senior to me, who knows much more than me, and I can learn a lot from them and grow my own learnings and grow as an individual, as a person, as a professional. The second important thing is When you are a part of a very coveted, community, then you also have a say on the policy decisions, and you can actually influence policy decisions for the good of the economy, company, and the world and the country. The third important thing is there are a lot of important workshops and meetups that happen where you can know each other. The networking capabilities are immense. So you can actually interact and build your global networking capabilities. And when you want to contribute to a company through joining its board or the country or the economy in turn, networking plays a very important role because who you are and how you are contributing. So Directors Institute is a great medium which sort of brings all such talented people together where we can interact with each other. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to find such talented people on a one-on-one basis. So I believe it's a great platform. They are doing great work and they help in not only my value addition and my learning, but also allow me to interact and build my contacts globally. So that's great work that they are doing. I'm so happy with them.
Thank you so much for those kind words, sir, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of FaceTime with Leaders. As we wrap up today's conversation, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for sharing this remarkable journey from your early experiences in finance to how you became a transformative leader and the thoughts you have behind all of this. I think it was truly very inspiring. Your vision, your adaptability, your courage to innovate and face challenges, and how you just look at them, I think, is again inspiring. So we hope this story has inspired all our listeners today. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the journey of leaders who are redefining future in business and governance. So until next time, keep striving for success and have fun in your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.